Hi, I'm Benj, this is Doing Outdoors. I know it's been a long time, but Happy New Year. I hope you've all had a good Christmas. But we're back on the camera now. I've got a lot of projects I have in mind to get completed this year, 2023. Hopefully, I'll be able to juggle things about, give myself more time to spend down here doing the jobs that I want to get done. But for the last 10 weeks, I think it's been since I've been stood in front of this camera, all I've really been doing is keeping up to date with the maintenance of these animals, keeping them with food in the bellies and running water, although that has been quite difficult when we managed to get almost a week where we didn't really get above -2. Very cold. The big benefit of having it really cold though is that the ground was solid, so the piglets especially weren't as muddy as they are now. But you'll see in a minute when I go around to the piglets that the ground that I've put them on for them to clear for me, well, they've cleared it and turned it into a bit of a swamp at the same time. We've had quite a lot of rain, and with 15 piglets running around on the same patch of ground, constantly digging, it's turned it into a right sludge pit. But they are, in a couple of days' time, going to be 7 months old. And it was at 7 months when the boys were going to go off to slaughter. But I'm having a problem trying to find a slaughterhouse that can cater for my needs. So I'm going to slaughter some of these myself, basically turn them all. The ones that I kill, I'm going to turn them all into bacon and sausage. Fill the freezer up, you can see the little piglets behind me. And you can see that they've made a good job of clearing this pen. But ultimately right now, it's very, very wet and muddy. It's not the ideal conditions. I kind of broke a rule that I set for myself last year. Last year was the first winter that I'd kept pigs, and I said I won't keep pigs outside again another winter. And here I am, all the pigs are out. The big pigs, the mummy pigs, Bertha and Bacon, the pen that they're in isn't much better, and there's only 2 pigs in there, and they've got a much larger space to roam. But the areas where they're not running constantly aren't really wet and muddy. It's quite dry around the back, so they're not doing as bad as the little piglets. There's Bertha, oh, there's Bacon, and you can see they have absolutely annihilated this patch. One thing that I have done in the time since I last filmed is that these have had a new shelter built, exactly the same as how the piglets got built. So they're keeping dry, they've got plenty of straw in there, they're doing well. And in the next week or so, I will be introducing Bertha and Bacon back to the boar, because it's time for them to breed again. Like I've just said, the piglets are going off to slaughter, or at least all the boys are. I'll keep the girls for a little longer. I'll probably leave those until they're about 10 or 11 months old. But as we know, it takes nearly 4 months for the gestation period of these pigs. So if I get them in now, by the time they've had piglets again, and those piglets are probably 8 weeks old, we will have got rid of all the little piglets in there. They'll have all gone to meat by then. I'm not planning on keeping any of those. And we still have the boar. There's Peanut. And Peanut hasn't been with us this whole time. I managed to get him a bit of a date. He's been off to service 2 girls up there. He went out for nearly 6 weeks, which was good for me. That's 6 weeks where I didn't have to feed him. And we loaned him out on a rate per week. So he's actually made us some money, or he's paid for his own keep, should I say. So we still have the cows and the sheep running in this field. My plan was, when I got these, to carve this field into probably 8 or 10 separate paddocks and move them round. That hasn't come to fruition yet, so they're just using this whole space for themselves. But because we're in the depths of winter now, there's not much goodness in the grass, or not much grass for them to eat, so we're supplementing their diet with some hay and also some pellet feed. And since we've been basically hand feeding these cows, they have become rather tame, which is what we want, because when they calf, hopefully next year, we will be trying to milk them at the same time. That's the plan anyway. So having hand fed them and gotten them rather tame to ourselves, it's going to help us out in the long run. The sheep are really tame as well. Unfortunately, we've only got one female sheep here in the pack, and the other 2 are castrated males, so how friendly they are doesn't really matter. They've got to go. They're not much use to us. They don't have the tackle to reproduce. And here they are. We've been feeding them in a wheelbarrow. We're dumping small amounts of hay, probably 4 or 5 times a day in this wheelbarrow, just to try and stop them from wasting so much, because they've got a habit of dragging it onto the floor, as you can see, and once they've trampled on it once or twice, they won't eat it. So by feeding them little and often, there's a lot less waste. But one of the big projects I've got to get on with this year is build a big barn, so we can ideally get these cows off the field during the winter. Although they've got quite a big area, it holds quite a lot of water, this ground, and you can see behind me where they keep standing around this gate and their water trough is there. It's turned to absolute mush. So just here where all these brambles are, I'm going to build a big pole barn, and as you can see down here, I've got some telegraph poles ready for the job. We'll use these telegraph poles, make a huge pole barn, corrugated steel on the roof and probably all the way down 2 or 3 of the sides, and that's where they'll overwinter, just so we can give the ground a rest, because it is taking a hammering even with the sheep, although they're not quite as heavy as these cows. What's up, Moo? And we've still got quite a lot of the chickens that we hatched this year, or last year. This is the 4th of January 2023, so it was about May time that these hatched. We have killed a number of the cockerels and eaten them, and they have produced quite a good bird. There's still 6 in here that I need to get hold of and slaughter. Compared to the cockerels that we did last year that didn't have any Indian game in them, these, or the breast meat on these, is probably twice the size. We've only ever killed the cockerels though, we haven't killed any of the hens, so I don't know what size the breast meat would be on them, but they're a lot better with the Indian game in. But this year I've got the white rock and I've got the Indian game, so it's a cross of those two which I'm hoping is going to give me a fast growing broiler bird that should only take 12 weeks to become table ready. That's the plan. But here's little Lambo, look, he's come to say hello. What's up, little Lambo? What's up? What's up, my mate? You can feel his back. You have to push really hard to feel his backbone now, so you know he's got a good covering of fat and a good amount of meat on his bones, which is good. And here's the cows. You just see how tame they are now. I think the last time I recorded I couldn't get anywhere near them. What's up, mate? they're going to want another bag of grass in a minute, so I'll go and load up on some hay, get them fed again. So we've just come round to the other side of Bacon and Bertha's pen just to see how much ground they're clearing. And here they come. They think they're going to get some treats off us. But you can see they're in really good shape at the minute. They've really recovered well after giving birth and bringing up those piglets. And they're going to be ready to go again any day now. They want to go and see the boar. Here comes Bertha. Now she's really put some weight on. But you can just see how much ground they have actually cleared in this corner. And we're also in this main field still running the chicken tractor. And I'm walking a path now where it ran a few weeks ago. And in fact, this whole area here that's rather green is where it's run most of last year, up and down. They're scratching away, fertilising the ground, and you can just see from how green this area is compared to how brown it is over here, that they really are making a positive impact to the ground. I'm just pulling them back. This is where they've come recently. Obviously the grass isn't growing back as fast now because we are in winter, but they've been up here, down there, starting a new track. But more chicken tractors is something that I really need to make this year. So one of the big jobs that I really need to push myself for getting done sooner rather than later is a veg patch out here. So we've got the greenhouse there, and you can see just laid next to it I have actually managed to collect another greenhouse. Still needs erecting. I just need to find some material to make a proper base for it. So we should be running on 2 greenhouses this year. But out on this grassed area I'm going to be setting up my no dig beds to grow hopefully all the vegetables that we need. It's now, like I've said, 4th of January. I really need to pull my finger out, get this done. And because although I am making my own compost, it's not going to be ready in time just to set up a couple of small beds. I'm going to buy a couple of tons of compost in just so that we can get rolling and not miss another year. But by having a couple of beds going, they'll produce even more green matter that I can compost. The compost that I made at the end of last year, 22, should be ready middle of this year. So when seedlings are coming out of the seed trays, I should have more space to plant those. I've been collecting the cow manure off the field. Obviously that should make good compost and good growing medium for some vegetables, not for everything. Every time we clean the chickens out, that's all saved. So we should have good nutritious compost. And whilst we're up here in the orchard, I'll talk about the trees that I planted. I planted these in February 2022, and as we all know, the summer of 2022 was really, really dry. And although I did try and water some of these, they suffered really bad. But I'm quite pleased that I'd say 90% of them, they're looking like they're going to come back. You can see the buds coming out. So I'm quite confident that I haven't lost all the trees. There's 2 or 3 that I'm sure are dead, but I'll leave anyway until probably mate time. You never know. These trees are quite resilient and they do want to grow. we'll see what happens. And then we come to the bees. Now, they have been probably the best thing I've done on the farm so far. Well, not the best thing I've done, but they're the easiest thing to look after, and they've given me the best, almost abundant produce so far. We managed to finish the season with 4 Queen-Right hives. Fingers crossed they'll overwinter just fine, and I'll start the new season with 4 Queen-Right hives. And my plan with those will be to make early splits to try and make them into 8 Queen-Right hives. So then when it comes to harvest time, I'll have an absolute bumper crop of honey. Like I've said, they don't take much looking after. You need to look after them correctly, but they do most of the work themselves. In fact, they'll do all the work themselves. They're really, really good, these bees. And you get an excellent product at the other end. If you've got any sort of space that you could stick a beehive in, I'd highly recommend it. So that's about all I've got time for on this one. Just wanted to give you a bit of an update on where we've been and what we've been doing over these last 10 weeks and where we plan to be in the next 12 months. Fingers crossed 2023 is going to be a good year. And as always, thanks for watching. And if you've not subscribed already, please do so. And I'll see you next time.